You wouldn't last an hour without me, Tammy Reed. Brent set down his crystal goblet, the bourbon inside reflecting the light from our chandelier. Without my money, my connections, my protection, you'd be just another freeloader. He adjusted his tie, waiting for me to beg or break. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my keys. House SUV. I lined them up on the granite counter, each one clinking against the stone. "You're right," I said. "Let's see." His face fell as I walked toward the door, leaving behind everything he'd bought me. But that was 3 hours ago. Now I was sitting in the lobby of a hotel on Beale Street, watching security footage on my phone. Yes, I had access to our penthouse on South Main. Another thing he never knew I understood. He was pacing the kitchen, picking up his keys, putting them down, calling someone. Probably his parents. Certainly not the police, because what would he say? My wife left her keys and walked out. The doorman approached with a smile. His room was ready. My maiden name had sounded right when I'd booked it that morning. I'd paid with my own money 6 figures from what he called my little hobby of interior design consulting. He'd laugh at parties and tell people I played decor like other wives played bridge. No one knew I'd turned his initial $10,000 allowance into enough to build my own empire. This room was smaller than our penthouse, but it was full of possibilities. I put down my only suitcase, the one I'd hidden in the office months before, filling it with necessities for every visit. He watched the credit cards but never asked about business trips. Trophy wives need to be on point after all. My phone buzzed. 15 missed calls. I deleted his contact, watching his number become nothing more than a number. The first voicemail came through when I tried to turn it off. "Tammy, this is ridiculous. Come home. We'll talk." His voice had a controlling tone, like he was handling a bad deal. By the 4th message, the control was broken. "You can't leave. Half of everything is in both of our names. I need your signature too. If this tale of flipping the script on a manipulative family and forging your own path has you riveted, hit that like button. Right away." My standout moment was when she slammed those keys down and strode out, primed to shatter his doubts. "What's yours?" Before diving deeper into my story, drop in the comments what time it is, where you're watching, and which city you're in, so I can see how far this journey of resilience has spread. Don't miss out on more gripping tales of triumph. Subscribe and tap the bell to catch every update. That morning felt like a different lifetime. I woke at 6 as usual, alone in our king bed because Brent had fallen asleep in his study again, surrounded by monitors showing real estate deals from Dallas. The coffee maker was programmed. Despite what he told his friends, I'd learned every appliance in that kitchen. He claimed I couldn't operate a microwave at last month's dinner party. Everyone laughed, even me playing the role. I stood at our floor-to-ceiling windows in the penthouse on South Main, watching Memphis wake up. The silk robe he'd given me for our anniversary itched against my skin designer label, but wrong size chosen by his assistant, who thought all wives were the same. Today was our 4-year mark. He hadn't mentioned it once this week, but I'd stopped expecting after year 2. The invitation to the charity event sat on the marble counter. Another performance where I'd smile while the wives compared properties. One would ask about my little hobby with that smug look. "Still tinkering with those design apps, dear," she'd say, not knowing I'd made more this quarter than her husband's side hustle. That's when I decided to organize Brent's study, looking for our insurance documents. He was particular about his space, everything in place. The voice recorder sat on his desk, the silver device he used for important notes. When I knocked it over, reaching for files, it clattered to the floor and started playing. His voice filled the room mid-conversation. "She asked for our deal statements yesterday." Laughter. I told her they were too complicated, lots of numbers. She believed me. "Brian, I could get her to sign away her share, and she'd just ask which pen." My hands trembled as I picked it up, saw the date. Last Tuesday, the day I'd brought him lunch at the office in downtown, surprising him with his favorite barbecue. He'd seemed pleased, introducing me to his new analyst as the lovely Mrs. Hayes. Now I understood the analyst's smirk. The recording continued. "That's why this type is perfect," Brent said. "Pretty enough for photos, clueless enough to control, grateful enough to stay quiet. My father taught me well. Marry beauty, rent intelligence." I placed the recorder back exactly as it fell, angled precisely. Then I found the insurance papers and something else. A folder marked prenup amendments. Documents dated last month, adding clauses about abandonment, forfeit of assets if I left without cause. Already notarized with my signature forged, but expertly so. Standing in that study, surrounded by evidence of his success and my role, something shifted. He wasn't just dismissive, he was calculated. I was an asset and he was planning my exit. The hotel on Beale Street had a view of our building. I could see our penthouse from here, lights on, as Brent probably searched for what I'd taken. He wouldn't find any. I'd only photographed documents, copied files to clouds he didn't know about. The real move would come later, legally, through the half of everything he'd put in my name for tax reasons. My phone rang again this time. Sean Hayes, Brent's father, calling personally. I let it ring, remembering how he'd introduced me at his last event. Brent's wife. Nice piece, isn't she? Like I was a property or a deal, something to appraise. Jody's text came through then. The mother-in-law who'd served wine at every gathering. "Heard you left room 1247 when you're ready to talk. I have 30 years of information you need." I smiled for the first time in months. Brent said I wouldn't last an hour without him, but he'd never asked what I was doing all those hours he left me alone. Never wondered why his mother knew my maiden name. Never imagined his trophy might have been planning her own empire. 7 days. That's all I needed to prove him wrong. After that, I'd take the rest of my life proving myself right. The keys I'd left weren't surrender. They were a starting point. And unlike Brent, I'd already mapped the entire route. 3 weeks had passed since that night at the hotel. I'd set up a routine. Morning consultations from my suite, afternoon walks through Cooper Young, evenings reviewing the documents Wendy had been sending in small batches. Each file she shared peeled back another layer of the Hayes real estate fraud. But today was different. Today was our actual anniversary date. And despite everything I'd agreed to, one dinner just to discuss logistics, Brent said on the phone, his voice neutral. "We need to be civilized about this." The salon on Main Street was the same one I'd used throughout our marriage. Deanna, my hairdresser, worked her fingers through my hair with precision. "Special occasion?" she asked. "Anniversary dinner," I said, watching my reflection transform into what Brent preferred. Sleek, controlled, expensive. 4 years. Right. How wonderful. Where's he taking you? A spot downtown, his favorite, where the waiters knew his wine preferences, and the chef sent complimentary courses to his regular table. 3 days later, at the estate in Central Gardens. The circular drive was full of cars. I recognized Brian's Bentley, 2 other partners' vehicles, even a new Tesla from another associate. This wasn't a simple dinner. This was an intervention masked as a celebration. Jody answered the door, Sean's wife. Her smile carried fatigue. "Tammy, you look amazing," she said, her eyes conveying caution. The foyer led to the main room where Brent commanded attention, tumbler in hand, his third judging by his flush. He glanced at me, absorbing the dress and hair, then resumed his talk without a word. Brian waved. Marissa sat aside, sipping her martini intently. "Lovely Tammy," Sean boomed, emerging from his study. He kissed my cheek, smelling of cigars and scotch. "Though I hear you're causing trouble with this split." "Bad for the firm." "You get it." Wendy emerged with champagne. Her gaze met mine, briefly signaling awareness. As she passed the glass, her fingers touched mine. "Some celebrations mark closures," she murmured. The dining area was arranged for 12. I spotted partners, their spouses, even Brent's attorney. They'd orchestrated this to force me back. I sat between Brian and a partner's wife opposite a portrait of Sean's father, the founder who built the company on dubious land deals and alliances. Dinner came in stages. Between the appetizer and entree, Brent launched his act. Amusing tale of how Tommy and I connected, he declared. The group focused on him. She wandered into a property seminar confused. Thought it was about landscape planning. He waited for chuckles. She inquired if real estate funds involved garden plots. Genuinely believed we discussed hedges. The anecdote was invented. I'd attended that seminar to pitch my interior concepts for developments, but facts didn't suit his story. Lucky for stray finds, Brian chimed in toasting. They become ideal ornaments. Marissa's hand reached mine beneath the table, an attempt at solace, though her sympathy stung more. I pressed back once, then withdrew. Restroom, I whispered. Sean's office door was ajar, his screen illuminated left unattended. I entered quietly, noting the arrangement, the safe concealed by artwork. The private cabinet. His password stuck to the monitor, Sean 1936, his birth era and a reference. These guys fancied themselves sharp. From the window I viewed the table in merriment. Brent standing, waving his glass, embodying the triumphant spouse, while his real wife gathered intel in shadows. Upon return, discussion turned to commerce. Texas venture debt ratios, hazard evaluations. Spouses remained mute as men debated fortunes like board games. Then Brian, intoxicated sufficiently for malice, proclaimed, Brent's a dynasty creator. Tammy's the showcase. Refined, yet merely decorative. The chuckles carried sharpness, aware the quip cut deep. Brent lifted his glass. Finest acquisition ever. Excellent deductions, low care enhances it functions. Wendy removed dishes, her pace deliberate. Our looks crossed the space, and in her expression I perceived accumulated fury from witnessing women diminished. Her subtle affirmation indicated preparedness. Something within me solidified, not fractured, but sharpened, clear as the ring on my finger that now seemed a restraint. The ring on my finger gleamed as I departed Sean's estate that night, each facet scattering lights like small vows of retribution. In the car, I retrieved a prepaid phone from under the seat, bought with cash at a store where questions weren't asked. My fingers sent a brief message to the sole number stored. Tuesday, 2 p.m., Cooper Young spot. Wendy's response arrived swiftly. I'll bring files. 3 days of anticipation felt extended. I maintained my pattern at the hotel, ordered meals, handled small designs to sharpen focus. Brent ceased calling. His lawyer managed now, dispatching formal notes on reconciliation for stability. Each note went to the shredder, then to Terry Wong, my attorney 2 hours away, where Brent's reach faded. Tuesday came overcast and muggy. The Cooper Young Cafe, nestled between a bookstore and a vintage shop, windows steamed from coffee machines. No one from Brent's circle would venture here, making it ideal. Wendy sat in the rear corner in a sweater, despite warmth appearing like a misplaced ant, but her eyes held 30 years of documented indignation. Mrs. Hayes, she started, and I interrupted. Reed. I'm reclaiming my maiden name. She grinned, sliding a cookie tin across. The containers seemed vintage, patterns faded. Inside, wrapped in paper, a lipstick case. Twist bottom thrice, then extract, she directed. The lipstick concealed a drive. 16 gigabytes of what Wendy termed safeguards. Began collecting in the 80s. She stated, voice low above the cafe noise. Sean's first wife, Elena. She sensed irregularities in the deals. Asked me to observe, listen. Then she faced her departure. Wendy's fingers quoted the term. Forced divorce, clear weather, ISO 1 week later at the cafe in Cooper Young. The spot sat squeezed between a bookstore and a vintage shop, its windows fogged with steam from coffee machines. No one from Brent's world would ever step foot here, which made it perfect. Wendy was already seated in the back corner wearing a sweater, despite the heat, looking like someone's aunt who'd taken a wrong turn. But her eyes held 30 years of carefully documented anger. Mrs. Hayes, she began, and I cut her off. Reed. I'm using my maiden name now. She smiled, pushing a tin of cookies across the table. The tin looked old flowers faded on top, the kind for sewing supplies. Inside, wrapped in tissue, lay a lipstick tube. Twist the bottom 3 times, then pull, she instructed. The lipstick was a flash drive, 16 gigabytes of what Wendy called insurance. Started collecting, back then, she said, voice barely above the cafe's hum. Sean's first wife, Elena. She knew something was off with the land deals. Asked me to watch, to listen. Then she had her forced exit. Wendy's fingers made air quotes around the last word. Pressured divorce, no foul weather, social isolation after. After that, I kept everything. Every memo, every call, transcript I could get, every side payment from company accounts, every mismatched filing. The waiter brought tea, and we fell silent until he left. Wendy poured with steady hands, though a slight tremor showed when she mentioned Elena. The second wife, Caroline, lasted longer. Smart woman, degree from a prestigious program, started asking the right questions in year 4. Sean had her sidelined for exhaustion. She signed the papers from a treatment center, gave up all claims to avoid extended stay. My tea went cold as Wendy outlined 2 decades of property scams, each one meticulously noted on that tiny drive. But she saved the worst for last. Your husband isn't just complicit. He's grooming Marissa. There's a trail gifts charged to dummy companies' hotel bookings that match his supposed client trips. He's planning to replace you, Tammy. But first, he needs to ruin your credibility. That birthday dinner, they were all there to witness your unstable behavior. Leaving the keys, walking out. They'll paint it as a breakdown. The cookie plate arrived, but neither of us touched it. I was thinking about Marissa's hand squeezing mine at the table, wondering if her concern was real or part of the setup. That night, I sat in my hotel room with my laptop, the drive plugged in, scrolling through Wendy's evidence. It was overwhelming. Decades squeezed into folders labeled by period, by scheme, by affected party. But I needed Brent's own files to confirm everything. Terry Wong answered on the second ring despite the late hour. I need to form a company. Something that blends in. When? Tomorrow. That's expedited. It'll cost extra. I'll pay triple. 2 hours north on the interstate. Past the exits for suburbs where Brent's colleagues lived in their own gated homes. Terry's office occupied the 2nd floor of a building that also housed a dentist and a tax preparer. No marble, no art, just diplomas on the wall and a coffee maker from another era. She'd already drawn up the papers. Horizon Holdings LLC, incorporated in Delaware, registered in Tennessee with a business address that led to a P.O. box that led to another LLC that led nowhere. The setup is fully legal, she explained, pushing documents across her desk, but layered enough that tracing it would take months of forensic work. By then, you'll have done whatever you're planning. How do you know I'm planning something? Terry leaned back, studying me. Because women who pay triple for shell companies don't do it for fun. They do it for survival. A week later, Brent left for Texas. 5 days of meetings about expansion into new markets, he said, though. I knew from Wendy's intelligence that he was really setting up accounts I'd never touch. Penny seemed relieved when I told her to take the week off. Paid vacation? Spring cleaning, I explained. I need to do this myself. Alone in our penthouse, I became someone else. Not the trophy wife, not the decoration, but a forensic examiner digging up evidence of my own obsolescence. Brent's office password was embarrassingly simple. Our wedding date, as if that meant something to him beyond a tax advantage. His computer open like a confession. Folders within folders. Transactions time-stamped to the minute, showing clear patterns. Sean would have lunch with certain developers. Within hours, Brent would make moves on those properties. The pattern was so obvious once you knew to look. In his locked drawer, the one he thought I didn't know about, lay emails that made my stomach turn. Not just about Marissa, but about me. Messages to Brian discussing my mental fragility. Ideas that I might need professional help, plans to have me assessed by a psychiatrist. Sean knew one who'd testified in Caroline's case. My hand stayed steady as I photographed each page, uploaded each file to Horizon Holdings' encrypted cloud. Every document went back exactly where I'd found it, aligned to the millimeter. Brent would return to an office that looked untouched, while I held copies of everything that could destroy him. The final document was in his personal safe. He'd hidden the combination in a book about real estate moguls, thinking he was clever. Inside, beyond the cash and gold, was a single folder marked Exit Strategy. Not for deals or projects. For me. A timeline showing when to file for divorce, how to claim abandonment, which assets to hide first. My elimination was scheduled like a property flip, complete with profit projections. I photographed it all, then sat in his leather chair looking at the city lights below. Somewhere out there, Wendy was probably filing her own reports. Terry was setting up the next phase of corporate structures, and Brent was sleeping soundly in Texas, dreaming of empires built on the bones of women who'd trusted him. He was wrong about one thing, though. I wasn't just another accessory in his collection. I was the one holding the blueprint. Brent left for Texas that morning, 5 days of meetings, he said, though I already knew, thanks to Wendy, he was hiding assets. Alone in the South Main penthouse, I stopped playing the ornamental wife and became the strategist. His office code, our wedding date, opened his computer like a confession, secret land deals messages plotting my removal, and a folder labeled Departure Tactic. Not for business, but for me, laying out a separation suit to paint me unstable and bury assets first. I copied everything to Horizon Holdings' secure vault, restored his files perfectly, and closed the door on his future ambush. The next morning, I swam 50 laps at the Beale Street Hotel pool until Marissa appeared, immaculate clothes, tired eyes, and a bruise half hidden beneath makeup. "Brian knows," she said. Phones cloned. "These men don't just rage, they retaliate." She vanished before I could answer, leaving me unsure if she was warning me or testing me. That night, Brent came home with lilies, my least favorite, and a script about taking a no-signal mountain vacation. He slid updated insurance across the table, hands shaking as he poured client-only Cabernet. I photographed every page under the table and signed with the same hand, documenting his plan to erase me. 3 days later, he fetched my mother from the airport himself, playing devoted son-in-law with dinners, spa vouchers, and toasts about the woman who raised a remarkable daughter. My mother glowed. I smiled and let the performance breathe. After she left, Wendy texted meet at the Memphis library. In a quiet corner, she spread clippings like tarot. Elena pressured out. Caroline vanished. Jennifer, bankrupted women who'd worn my last name across decades, all discarded around year 4. "You're 4 years, 3 months, Wendy said. "Act now." I asked why she stayed. "Different cage," she said, "but a cage still." She handed me one more photo, a 22-year-old, the next prospect. I slid the picture behind my old ID, and the next morning began extracting money softly, $8,000, then $12,000, then $15,000 coded as design expenses, and routed to Horizon, exactly the paper trail Terry taught me to maintain. That night, Brent staggered home smelling of scotch. "Lost a major client, 40 million compliance," he muttered. I knew Wendy's tips had worked. Rumors of the FBI, he added, pouring again. Over the week, he drank more, raged more, and signed anything I set before him. Power updates, policy tweaks, trust revisions, while his signature degraded with every glass. Terry called from an unknown number. The FBI had watched Sean for 18 months and wanted me. If I planned to move, it had to be now because freezes were coming. That night, as Brent reached his 6th drink, he squinted at me. "You've changed." "Therapy," I said smoothly. "Accepting what I can't change." At the country club, a wife mocked my decorating apps. I smiled. "My portfolio's up 340% this year. Want statements? I shorted your husband's project when his permit was denied. You knew about that, right? She paled. The room went quiet. For the first time, they saw me as more than Brent's accessory. A few days later, Marissa filed for divorce with proof affairs, hidden holdings plans to remove her. Brent called 17 times. On the 18th, I answered. What did you tell her? Nothing, I said, and it was true she'd found her own fire. In the background, Brian screamed about betrayal partnerships collapsing in real time. Wendy texted emergency meeting, the empire's cracking. I packed the plain disguise I'd bought in cash and slipped an envelope under Brian's office door. Brent's plans to poach clients and worse, target Marissa's assets post-divorce. Within hours, Brian resigned. Lawsuits were coming. I checked into a Beale Street room under my maiden name and called the SEC. I had time-stamped trades, shell routes, and insider lunches linking Sean Brent and illegal moves. Why now? The agent asked. Because silence makes me part of it and another woman is about to be fed into the machine, I said. I triplicated every file, bank boxes, and Terry's safe with instructions to hit FBI, SEC, and the press if anything happened to me. That evening, Sean stormed into our building, used his key, and snarled through the halls. You said she was naive, didn't read contracts. I brought coffee like a ghost. Cream, I asked. He ignored me, telling Brent to find the leak, or they were finished. They shredded and dialed and ranted until 2 a.m. By 3, Brent had passed out on his paperwork, mouth open on million-dollar pages. I moved through the penthouse with the efficiency of someone already gone. Clothes and jewels stayed. On the granite counter, I aligned 3 keys, house, car, safe, and left a note. Check your balances. In my purse, my laptop, my real ID, and the accounts for Horizon, now holding half our liquid assets transferred lawfully over weeks. The doorman barely looked up when I left at 3 a.m. In that world, the wealthy always looked busy and untouchable. Outside, Memphis air cut clean and cool. In 6 hours, Brent would wake to frozen accounts and federal questions he couldn't charm away. The cab driver asked, "Where to, ma'am?" For the first time in 4 years, I gave an address that was entirely my own. 1 week later, in the penthouse on South Main, Brent returned with lilies, my least favorite flowers, though I'd mentioned it once 3 years ago. He'd brought tulips for every occasion since when he remembered occasions at all. The lilies meant something. They meant he was paying attention now. Thought we could have dinner together, he said, setting them on the counter where my keys once lay. Like we used to. We hadn't eaten together without others present in 6 months. I watched him pour wine, the good Cabernet he usually saved for clients, and arranged cheese on a plate with unusual care. His hands, normally so steady when signing million-dollar deals, showed the slightest tremor. I've been thinking, he said, settling across from me at our dining table that seats 12 but had never hosted a family meal. We should take a vacation. Just us. Maybe that place in the mountains with no cell service. Remember how you loved the mountains? I'd mentioned loving mountains once on our honeymoon, while he'd spent the entire trip on conference calls. The fact he remembered felt like a trap, spring-loaded with teeth. When I asked, cutting a piece of cheese with surgical precision. Next week or sooner, tomorrow even. His eagerness betrayed him. You seem stressed, Tammy. The separation, living in hotels? It's not good for you. He pushed a document across the table. New insurance papers, he explained. Better coverage for both of us. His eyes tracked my hand as I picked up the pen, watching for hesitation, for signs of suspicion. Under the table, my phone captured every page. Terry's app, running silently, storing images in Horizon's encrypted cloud. You trust me, don't you? His question hung between us like a chandelier about to fall. Completely. I lied, signing my name with the same hand that had documented his plans to destroy me. 3 days later, Carla arrived from Ohio, her presence announced by Brent himself, picking her up from the airport, something he'd never done before. He carried her luggage, complimented her new haircut, asked about her garden with feigned interest so polished it gleamed. Oh, honey, she gasped, pulling me aside in the kitchen while Brent mixed her gin and tonic with the precise ratio she preferred. You didn't tell me things had gotten better. He seemed so devoted. The words I wanted to say piled up behind my teeth. He's performing, Mom. This is a show where you're the audience and I'm the prop. And somewhere there's a finale that ends with me sidelined or gone. Instead, I smiled. He's full of surprises. That week became a masterclass in Brent's abilities. Broadway shows he'd previously called waste of time, dinners at restaurants he'd booked months in advance. Though I knew his assistant had pulled strings that morning, a surprise spa day for both of us while he handled some business. Carla glowed under the attention tears actually forming when he toasted her at dinner, calling her the woman who raised such an incredible daughter. I watched from across the table as he performed the role of perfect son-in-law and realized with cold clarity that I'd never actually seen Brent try before. This was him, at full power. The charm that had built his empire directed now at convincing my mother that her daughter was safe. The last night of her visit, she sat on my bed in the guest room holding my hands. Honey, you've lost weight. And your smile. It's different practiced. Her fingers found my cheekbones sharper now from months of barely eating. Are you happy? Behind her through the doorway, I could see Brent's shadow in the hallway listening. I'm exactly where I planned to be, I said loud enough for him to hear, ambiguous enough to be true. After Carla left, Mindy texted from an unknown number. The message was anonymous, but I knew her style. Stop now, or regret it. I traced the IP, but it bounced through proxies. She was following my social media, liking old posts, sending subtle threats. That evening, Brent brought more gifts, a necklace this time. Thought you'd like it? He said, draping it around my neck. Matches your eyes. I nodded, but my mind was on Mindy's messages. She was escalating, watching my moves. I signed the papers he handed me without reading, acting compliant. My heart raced with anxiety, but I kept my face calm. The next day, I met Terry again. She reviewed the signed documents. Good work, she said. These give us leverage. But be careful. They're desperate now. I felt the weight of the threats, but my resolve hardened. The game was on, and I was no longer playing defense. 2 weeks later, at the public library, Wendy was waiting with a stack of books, blending in with the patrons. She led me to a quiet table in the corner. I have more for you, she said, sliding a folder across. Inside were photos. 4 women, all with features like mine, delicate and photogenic. Elena, Caroline, Jennifer, and you, she explained. Sean chooses them like casting for a show. Young, pretty, from ordinary families, awed by money. Clever enough to chat, not to question. Marry them to Brent, use for looks, dump in year 4 when they probe. Why 4? Time to build instability case. Short to avoid deep ties. By 5, gone or crushed. You're at 4 years, 3 months. Move fast. Elena waited too long, Caroline clashed openly. Jennifer trusted bad allies. I stared at the faces, blending into a warning. Why stay? I asked. She paused, stacking clippings. Daughter of Sean's first aide. She died, he gave me the job kindly. 19, grateful, dumb. By realization, trapped. Different cage, but cage. Now older, invisible patient. As closing announced, she handed one more photo. Young woman, 22-ish. Potential. Sean lunched her dad last week. Graduated, announcement soon. She's next, unless we stop. The photo weighed heavy as I left. 22, future ahead, stepping into the trap. I tucked it behind my old ID, pre-Hayes days with own dreams. Next morning, first transfer. $8,000 from joint-like shopping, not alarm. Teller unbothered. Mrs. Hayes buying luxuries routine. Cashed at 3 banks, deposited Horizon, Tennessee. Terry taught trail as design fees. IRS loves papers, even made up if filed right. That evening, Brent home at 9, not 7. Tie loose jacket off, Scotch breath from bar stop. Lost major client poured 3 fingers McAllen closer for. 40 million gone. Compliance concerns at my firm. Neutral face but knew Wendy tipped officer 2 weeks back. Tough, I said, watching gulp half. Brian thinks leak to clients. Poured again, hand shaky. Rumors, investigation. Nonsense. Next day, moved 12,000 after 15. Spa told asking teller. Husband wants pamper. She smiled, thinking her own unnoticed spends. Brent's drinking climbed with losses. Nightly crisis. Client pull partner query. Federal whisper. Paced study speaker calls while drank. Signed without read. Power shifts policy tweaks, trust changes. Writing sloppier daily. Terry called Thursday, unknown number. Meet today, urgent. Found her rest stop, highway, practical car, shoulder tension. FBI contacted. No, I represent. Want talk. Chest tight. How Sean watched 18 months. Ex-employee whistled. Case built, need insider back. Card. Agent Sarah Coleman. Asked you. Shared privilege. But Tammy move now. FBI public assets freeze. Unmoved locked years. Night watched Brent 6th drink pre-dinner. Phone constant. Brian Sean lawyers crisis. Call more sip signatures. Suspect all but wife refilling. Eat something. Suggested concerned calculating pace. Not hungry, muttered red eyes. You've changed. Calmer. Therapy lied, except unchangeable. Saturday ladies meeting country club. Dreaded knowing mock hobby. But Terry's news lit timer stop pretend. Started before sit. Tammy dear, dabbling design apps. Cute wives' hobbies like kids' toys. Room titter. Wendy pouring tea unseen. Eyes met. Actually voice carried. Portfolio up 340% year. Yours, silence guillotine. Face smug to shocked mouthfish. Sorry, what 340? Statements enjoyed shorting husband's project month. Killing patent rejected. New rejection face white. Hadn't. Wives leaned, seeing beyond accessory. Suppose continued stirring tea calm. Some prefer toys. Real pretend portfolios actual. Wendy smiled, slight refilled cup. Meeting odd quiet gossip glances. Evening Brent here. Morning Sean no daughter-in-law clause. Didn't care. Timer down tired underestimated. Explosion Wednesday. Room notifications. Marissa filed divorce. Brian receipts. Not infidelity. 3 mistresses 2 years fraud hidden email. Brian remove Marissa lawyer. Brent called 17 hour. Answered 18th. What told her demanded. Who? Marissa. Brian thinks leaked. You two friendly dinners must. Told nothing truthfully. Marissa own evidence war. Parallel soldiers never notes. Phone crash office. Exiting partnership. 20 years gone. Betrayed woman. Laugh bitter. Not serious, Marissa. Too sharp aware. Keeping options. Admission hurt, felt nothing note phone. Evidence Terry later. Thought smarter everyone, Brian yelling background. Congratulations destroyed both. Line dead. Didn't call back, Wendy texted hour. Sean emergency, all partners empire cracking. Stared text minute. Words empire cracking, glowing fulfillment. Hands instinctive pulled disguise closet. Cash weeks distant shop. Outfit ordinary sunglasses dark nobody. Brian's downtown security impressive theater. Been many. Brent's wife guards lunch 12:30. Aide 45 lunch 3 blocks. Elevator floor endless. Purse envelope printed Brent. About Brian mockery scorn schemes. Poach clients dissolved. Core financial acquire. Marissa post-divorce calculations inherited wealth access marriage. Brian's door solid mahogany gold name. Slipped envelope underneath whisper rug walked elevator haste. Camera woman anyone purpose not rush. 3 hours. Wendy forwarded email Brent's aide. Partnership dissolution. Brian effective legal emergency. Hotel Beale cash plenty. Registered Tammy Reed maiden armor remembered where. Room modest clean desk laptop burner Terry. SEC hotline rings automated press 1-2 reporting scams pizza, voice securities, report systematic insider Hayes real estate. Years documented timed correspond material non-public. Agent Jennifer silent detailed. Sean's lunches executives followed Brent's perfectly timed. Shell's offshore pattern obvious. Questions grasp. Why now Mrs. Hayes looked Memphis skyline towers men Sean Brent. Staying silent complicit. Planning another woman did me. Call copied Wendy's 3 drives. 1 safety box Chase, 1 Bank America, 1 Terry's safe. Instructions simple. Anything me release FBI SEC New York Times simultaneously. Evening Sean's black Mercedes garage. Watched penthouse window emerged, face tight, fury fear. Key privilege father-law owned 30% son's fund. Where books voice carried penthouse reached Brent's study. Dad books Brent now. Made coffee, normalcy, voices rose, fell walls. Phone recording vase hallway every word. Brian's out, Brent saying, manage without. Brian's out, Morrison's out. Pulled morning, FBI office questions patterns. Impossible. Everything bulletproof someone talked. Sean's tone dangerous. Promised wives handled. Said Tammy stupid understand signed. Is Brent. Doesn't know financial statement. Entered tray face blank. Dutiful wife serving world disgusted furniture. Looked me. Sean cold assessment, Brent dismissive certainty. Cream asked Sean. Ignored turning Brent. Find leak, fix or finished. Labored 2 a.m. papers spread tarot, might reveal future. Heard Brent's printer constant shredding calls lawyers 2,000 hour answer midnight. 3 a.m. Brent past chair surrounded evidence crumbling empire head stack drool, pooling million pages. Mighty genius reduced exhausted man built throne bones, underestimated women. Moved penthouse last time, not nostalgia. Clinical efficiency already gone. Clothes closets. Explain wife left behind. Jewelry boxes. Blood diamonds gilt gold never mine. Purse laptop real ID banking horizon. Now half liquid assets withdrawn legally weeks. Keys granite counter began. House car safe lined military, next note stationary, check balances. Doorman not question Mrs. Hayes leaving 3 a.m. purse. Realm rich, whatever whenever. Scene stranger, air face street, cold sharp perfect. Behind floors Brent slept unaware wife fired first shot war, didn't know begun. 6 hours, wake depleted accounts FBI closing. Cab driver asked where first 4 years address entirely own. The family meeting was called under pretense of reconciliation. Sean's text demanded attendance. I arrived last, knowing it was their final attempt to contain me. The room was tense, Brent pacing Jody fidgeting with her ring, Mindy glaring from the corner. We need to end this nonsense. Sean started voice commanding as always. You've made your point. Come back sign these and we'll forget it. The papers on the table were new amendments stripping my rights. I sat calmly pulling out my phone. Before signing, let's review some things. I played the recording from Brent's voice device. His words echoed. She wouldn't understand a statement if I drew pictures. That's the beauty of this type clueless enough to control. Faces paled. Then I displayed the emails, the forged prenup, the exit plan. Wendy's drive projected on the wall showing decades of fraud. Sean slammed the table. How did you get this? I smiled. From someone you've overlooked for 30 years. Wendy stepped in from the kitchen, no longer invisible. I've documented everything she said. Every shady deal, every woman you discarded. The room erupted. Brent lunged for the phone, but I pulled back. FBI has copies. They're coming. Mindy's face twisted in rage. You ruined us. No, I said. You did that yourselves. Brent collapsed into a chair, calling nonstop as alerts hit his phone, clients pulling out, partners fleeing. His empire shattered in minutes. I walked out, leaving them in chaos, feeling no pity, only liberation. 6 months later, the divorce finalized in court. Terry slid the decree across her desk. You get the house, 60% of assets, your separate funds untouched. The courtroom had been full. Brent sat defeated, suit loose from stress. His lawyer tried. Mrs. Hayes profited from crimes. Terry played the recording. Brent's contempt filled the room. Judge looked at him. You underestimated your wife's intelligence. That led to your downfall. Signing Tammy Reed reclaimed me. The whistleblower reward cleared, funding my new path. Wendy waited outside in a fresh suit. We walked to the old Hayes office building. Directory blank where their name was. Third floor, Wendy said. Landlord cut a deal, better PR for Survivor Foundation than empty space. Horizon Foundation sign hung. Our first client came, wife of an executive fudging data, clutching files. My husband calls me paranoid, she whispered. Says I don't get the business. Wendy leaned in. Documents tell stories. We'll craft your new one. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Carla called. Visiting, she declared. Moved to 2-bedroom apartment, cozy with light. Kitchen small, but mine, learning to cook. Picked her up in my used car. You look different, she said in traffic. Lighter. Weak-talked foundation. Wendy's wit, women with secrets. Cooked Thanksgiving turkey, dry stuffing, perfect canned cranberry. Watched me in kitchen, comfortable, unlike penthouse. Your happy revelation. Free corrected, same thing. Stayed extra week, guest room, sage green reading while I worked cases. Last night, hugged like childhood before performed happiness. Proud whispered. Not surviving, becoming yourself. 6 months since walkout. Stood house doorway, mine, now signed papers. Room's empty. Brent's things gone. Phone rang. Wendy energized. New client, senator's wife, documenting violations, 2 years. Keys, hand-earned ones, heavier purpose. Through window saw young woman with fiancé her age, holding hand meaningfully. Ready round 2, Wendy asked. Thought 17 women, 3 months, 4 left marriages, assets intact, 13 gathering courage, documentation. Each learning freedom, taken 1 document time. Born ready, told Wendy, closing door. Didn't know, till convinced, nothing. Lock clicked, finality. Walked car, tossed keys, agent cell, ego monument. Proceeds fund, Horizon year 2. Drove back, smaller, warmer life, thought Elena, Caroline, Jennifer, ghosts. Wives past, broken, silenced, erased. Stories. Wendy's documentation saved me. Now saving others, 1 signature woman, time bridge, ashes. Empire burned. Phone buzzed, Marissa text. Coffee tomorrow? Someone meet, needs help. Smiled, merging traffic home. Real home, not cage, doorman, marble counter, set keys, walked moment. Life, freedom looked imagined. Unremarkable, undramatic, absolutely mine. Brent's empire fell fast. 15 years in prison for wire fraud. Sean's 20-year history of fraud. Jody's matrimonial bankruptcy. Mindy lost her job, sued for civil isolation. Patient legal justice helps women overcome family manipulation, teaches self-confidence, and supports each other. Thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. Share your thoughts in the comments.